Hey, this is the Fight Nerd. I'm here now in Philadelphia at the Bellator Open Tryouts here with the owner of Bellator, Bjorn Rebney. Bjorn, how's it going today?
It's going great. How you doing?
I am pretty good. Now, as I mentioned, we're at the tryouts for Bellator. We've only just begun here, but this is not the first time you've done the tryout event before, so tell us about the history of these events.
Yeah, you know, these events have gone great for us. Goldsby, who fought in our bantamweight tournament, was on national television for us literally 3 times over the last 9 months. Tyler Stinson, who fought Hornbuckle in the first round of the welterweight tournament last season. Jose Vega, who was on TV for us twice in the last 6 months, nationally televised prime time. They all came out of these tryouts. This is not a PR stunt. We've found really great world-class fighters out of these tryouts. You know, I mean, we were just talking about there are too few big promotions on television, and there's a huge number of world-class fighters out there looking for a shot. So you can come to a tryout like this, especially in a place like Philly, and you can find 2 or 3 guys who literally deserve a shot to go to the next level. And we will. We'll find a guy. I guarantee you we will find a guy on this show, on this tryout, that will make it to one of our shows.
Now, this is the second open tryouts, correct?
This is, well, no, this is, I mean, overall, we've done 2 in Florida, 1 in Kansas City, 1 in...
I'm behind the times.
Yeah, we've done a few of them. You know, we've done a bunch of them, and they work great. I don't think we've been to one yet where we haven't found a fighter who we put on a show.
All right, now let's talk a little about what's going on in Bellator right now. There's a lot happening. This Thursday night we had it's leading into the finals of the women's tournament. Now we're going to see Megumi Fujii against Zoila Frausto. Give us your opinion on how the tournament is broken down now that we're in the final stage of that.
I think it has broken down. Megumi Fujii has been utterly dominant, but I think she's the best pound-for-pound woman in the world right now. So
that's why she's Megu.
Yeah, exactly. And she's, you know, I mean, Lisa. You know, she was so dominant against Lisa, you forget how good Lisa is. Lisa's really, really talented, probably one of the top 4 or 5 women in the world, and she just walked through her. You know, and I mean, Zoila, it's an interesting matchup, probably the most compelling of the matchups we could have, because Zoila is naturally a striker, a pure striker, does not want to be on the ground, and is strong as a house, walks around at 40 and cuts to 15. And for a woman, for any human being that wants to fight at 15, walking around at 40 is tough. For a woman, it's additionally difficult. You know, it's one thing to walk around at 205 and cut down to 70, but it's a whole other thing to walk, you know, when your body weight is that low to begin with. So, you know, she'll come in very big, very strong. She's a puncher. And Megumi is just, I mean, every part of her game. Her ground game is better than anybody in the world. Her striking has been steadily progressing, working with Josh. It's a good matchup. It's a very interesting matchup. I don't think there's any question in anybody's mind. I'm just stating the obvious. If the fight goes to the ground, Zoila's in a lot of trouble. Now,
this tournament was fought at 115, I believe, which is mostly Megumi's weight. A lot of other fighters had to cut a lot of weight for this. Moving ahead, is this going to be the same weight class we see in Bellator for women in general? Is this like the Bellator weight class, kind of like Strikeforce for a while had their 145, or that was their major weight class? Is this going to be your women's weight class?
She's been, I mean, a lot depends on kind of what happens in the final. If she is as dominant in the final as she's been in the quarters and the semis, you could conceivably see us giving a little bit more leeway and moving up a little bit and allowing Megumi to move up with us and giving access to a few more women who just can't cut to 115. You know, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, it's been good for us. The numbers have been good. The ratings when they've been fighting have been good because these are not the FHM model who's suddenly learned how to throw a left hook. These are world-class ladies who can fight at the very highest level. So, you know, we'll see. That's still kind of up in the air. You know, whoever wins it, I want to create a dynamic where we can create the #1 ranked challenger to face her, and we'll just have to figure out whether that stays at 15 or it moves up a little bit. I think our position as it relates to the women's fight game is pretty simple. We follow the exact same philosophy as we did, whether it was in the featherweight division or the welterweight or the lightweight or the middleweight or the bantamweight or the heavyweight division. We went out, and with Sam Kaplan and myself and a team of people, we recruited the 8 greatest ladies on the face of the earth. Every single woman who started this tournament, other than Zoila Frausto, was ranked in the top 10 in their respective weight divisions in the game. We didn't look for anybody who was an FHM model. We didn't look for anybody who was really cute and on the cover of magazines who might be able to throw a left hook. We looked for the greatest fighters on the face of the earth, and we put them together in a tournament to determine the greatest pound-for-pound woman in MMA. I think MMA fans responded to that, and I think that's one of the reasons that pundits and writers and people have been saying, hey, you should watch this, you should be paying attention. Megumi Fujii is the greatest pound-for-pound woman in the world. The women she's been facing are hugely talented. So, you know, I mean, that's what fighting should be about, in my mind.
And also coming to a close soon, the bantamweight tournament and the heavyweight tournament, 2 very distinct weight classes, of course. Now, how's the tournament going so far in your eyes?
It's been going really good. I mean, you know, the Zach fight against Ed Zach Makowski against Ed West, those are the 2 best guys we had at 35. I mean, when you went into it, when it all got hashed out at the very beginning, I thought, well, if the two best guys win, those will be the last two guys in the tournament, and ultimately that's the last two guys in the final that'll fight for our world title. The Neil Grove fight against Cole Conrad at heavyweight, very interesting. Cole Conrad has never faced anybody who's got the power in his hands and in his feet and in his legs that Neil Grove does. Neil Grove knocks people out. He's a big dude who packs a lot of punch. He knows how to use his elbows. He's wickedly talented on his feet, and he's a monster human being. I mean, you know, Cole Conrad is the best heavyweight wrestler in mixed martial arts, but the reality is that Cole has yet to go up against a huge human being that is a world-class striker like Neil. You know, if Cole can take him down, can Neil get back up? Neil walks around at 300 pounds, and 300 pounds in shape, not a big slobbering 300 pounds. I mean, ripped 300 pounds. So I don't know. I don't know. I've never seen Neil go to the ground because he's just been knocking everybody out so quick. He's like Hector Lombard. You know, people forget Hector Lombard was judo in the Olympics and black belt in jiu-jitsu. So, but you never see it because he puts everybody to sleep in the first 35 seconds. So, or 6 seconds if you're Silva. You know, we'll see. That's a really interesting matchup. Could be electrifying, and it could be a very slow, methodical Cole Conrad win. Who knows?
We'll see coming up. Now, what matters the most to us East Coast fans is that Bellator is going to be in Philadelphia October 21st. A lot of really, really great matchups for that. So let's just run down the card a little bit. I mean, you got Eddie Alvarez versus Roger Huerta, which is going to be very exciting. And you're putting up Lyman Good against Ben Askren. Now, that fight alone, you're basically colliding two different storylines right there. So let's talk about that one first. I mean, what's the importance of this match? What happens when one of these guys loses?
Well, I mean, whichever one of the guys loses stays in the hunt. I mean, Askren's a phenom. When Askren learned, when Askren's game standing gets up to 30% of his game on the ground, he will be unbelievably difficult for anyone to beat in the world at 70. Lyman Good striking is at the very top of the division at welterweight. So Lyman, so far fighting at Bellator and so far fighting in his career, has really not been forced to go to the ground and defend himself on a regular basis the way that he will have to against Ben Askren. And Ben Askren is not just a wrestler who's going to take you down and lay on you. He's constantly moving. His grappling's world class. He will submit you in a heartbeat in 1,000 different ways. This is not just a really talented wrestler who will take you down and lay on you until the fight ends. He'll bust you up on the ground, and as he did to Hornbuckle. I mean, if you saw that fight, from start to finish, he dominated a world-class welterweight who's known for his striking. And also who had submitted Hornbuckle submitted Stinson out of the box for the triangle and then submitted Carl as well, almost tore Carl's arm off. And so, I mean, Askren's a freak, and Lyman Good is, we haven't seen Lyman fight in 15 months.
Yeah, it's going to be a problem. Is this rumor's going to be a problem, I think? I mean, we know he's had a pretty bad injury for that time.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. That's a great question. I mean,
Hope you can answer that one for me.
Yeah, I mean, Lyman, we asked Lyman, do you want a warm-up fight? Do you want a super fight? Because we gave Eddie the fight against Josh Neer. We gave Hector 2 fights. We gave Soto, before he came in against Warren, we gave him the fight against Diego Saraiva. But man, we asked him and he was like, I don't need it. I don't want it. I don't need it. I'm going to focus. I'm going to train. I'll be ready. I'm like, all right. I mean, he's a real hard guy to bet against. You know what I mean? But, the question in my mind is, Omar De La Cruz was talented, but Omar De La Cruz is not Ben Askren. You know what I mean? I mean, you got to ask yourself, that Askren is at a much different level than the kind of guys that Lyman has fought to date. At the same time, Lyman Good is at a much different level from a striking and stand-up perspective than the guys that Ben Askren has fought to date. And Ben Askren wants the fight on the ground. And he'll tell you, I mean, Ben Askren's not going to say, well, I'm going to test my stand-up. Ben Askren is the consummate guy going in to win. I want to take him, I want to dump him on his head, I want to beat him up on the ground, and I want to end the fight. That's what he'll say. He's not trying to prove anything from a machismo perspective. He's trying to win the fight. So, that is an interesting fight, man. If I had to bet the house, I wouldn't want to bet it either way on that fight. It could go any number of ways,
Also a very interesting matchup, of course, as you mentioned, Roger Huerta, Eddie Alvarez. Huerta still trying to find his mark in Bellator, and going up against Alvarez, not going to be an easy fight for him.
No.
So let's talk a little bit about that matchup here.
Not an easy fight for anybody. I think you and I have actually talked about it in the past. My greatest strength and my greatest...
He remembers who I am, everybody. That's important.
My greatest strength and my greatest weakness is I say exactly what I believe. Eddie Alvarez, in my mind, is the greatest lightweight fighter in mixed martial arts today. I don't think, and I have huge respect for BJ and Frankie and Kenny and Gilbert and everybody else. I think Eddie's the best 155-pounder on earth. So Roger has his hands full. And people... There's a misnomer about Eddie Alvarez. Oh, Eddie Alvarez is a boxer. Eddie Alvarez is a boxer like I'm a souffle chef. You know what I mean? Eddie Alvarez is a consummate mixed martial artist. He can do everything inside the cage. He is the evolution of mixed martial arts. So, that's a very tough fight for Roger. If the Roger Huerta that is inside Roger somewhere shows up and comes forward and puts on the kind of fight that he's capable of putting on, we have the potential to have the fight of the year. The question is, does it go that way, or is Eddie Alvarez so talented and his game has continued to evolve to such a point where Eddie runs over Roger Huerta? I don't know. I know that there is a Roger Huerta out there who I have seen fight in the past, and who, if he has been training and maturing over the last year or so, which we didn't get a chance to see in the current fight. But if that Roger Huerta is there, this could be a fight for the ages. This could be Hanson Alvarez too.
Hopefully it is fight of the year, because we'll be there in person, of course, watching that fight happen. And speaking, of course, as you guys are being in Philadelphia, are you guys going to be hitting up any more East Coast areas coming up?
We'd love to. I mean, it looks at this point like we'll do at least 26 live nationally televised shows in 2011. I would love to be, what I'd love to see is a huge event here in Philly with a huge crowd response come back to Philly. Ultimately, conceivably, Jersey, Atlantic City. We'll see. But it's been strange. Louisville sells out, monster packed crowd, fire department turning people away. Kansas City, packed house, sellouts. We were just in Lake Charles in Louisiana, a place that you might not have ever heard of, but packed the house, sold it out hours before the show, not a ticket available. It just depends on where the reaction is, because there's an economic aspect to the business where you need to, as a promoter, play packed houses. Yeah. And those are packed houses for us. I think Philly should do really well. Eddie Alvarez is, in addition to being the greatest lightweight fighter in mixed martial arts, he's also an amazing promoter. When he decides to give this up, he'll be the UFC, Bellator, and everybody else will be running for the hills with him. So, he does an amazing job moving tickets. He's got street teams all over the place. He's got brothers and cousins and friends, and everybody is concentrated in different regions of the city moving tickets. So, it'll be fun to see. Philly fans from a fight perspective are kind of they're almost kind of like a caricature in a film.
It's the ECW crowd.
Yeah, it's just rabid and loud and excited and angry and maybe even the slightest bit inebriated. I think you're going to have an amazingly, Eddie's T-shirt speaks to it. It's going to be hostile territory. It is just going to be, it's going to be a very, very, very pro Eddie Alvarez fight group, and we'll see. It'll be exciting. It'll be fun. It's MMA. It's a live event. It's going to be a blast.
All right, Bjorn, we've taken up enough of your time today. You can go back and check out the rest of the Bellator tryouts. We'll see you October 21st. We'll see you October 21st as well.
Cool. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. We'll see you in 3 weeks, right?
2 or 3 weeks. I can't do math. You do it?
Neither can I, but I think it's 3 weeks.
We'll see you then.